Alright, Jeremiah 3. So, you guys may have picked up on it by now, but I did the first Jeremiah, second Jeremiah, and all the introductory videos all on the same night, because this was the chapter that I read the day I decided to start making these videos. So, I didn't want to just start with Jeremiah 4 tomorrow, because my plan is to make a video every day of me reading things for the first time again, with a more mature light, I would hope. And, I didn't want to have to make videos for chapters that I read 2 days ago, so I decided I'm just gonna have my first read through with you guys, and then, just offer a brief commentary and lessons and themes that I appreciate, because, it's, we all notice different things, and maybe if my kids don't notice, they might notice something and tell me about it, or maybe I noticed something that they didn't, and that's great, right? All in pursuit of the truth. So, Jeremiah 3, last video of the night. Oops. If a man divorces his wife, and she leaves him and marries another man, should he return to her again? Would not the land be completely defiled? But you have lived as a prostitute with many lovers. Would you now return to me? Declares the Lord. Look up to the barren heights and see. Is there any place where you have not been ravished? By the roadside you sat waiting for lovers, sat like a nomad in the desert. You have defiled the land with your prostitution and wickedness. Therefore the showers have been withheld, and no spring rains have fallen. Yet you have the brazen look of a prostitute. You refuse to blush with shame. Have you not just called to me, my father, my friend from youth? Will you always be angry? Will your wrath continue forever? This is how you talk, but you do all the evil you can. During the reign of King Josiah, the Lord said to me, have you seen what faithless Israel has done? She has gone up on every high hill and under every spreading tree, and has committed adultery there. I thought that after she had done all this, she would return to me, but she did not, and her unfaithful sister Judah saw it. I gave faithless Israel her certificate of divorce, and sent her away because of all her adulteries. Yet I saw that her unfaithful sister Judah had no fear. She also went out and committed adultery. Because Israel's immortality mattered so little to her, she defiled the land and committed adultery with stone and wood. In spite of all this, her unfaithful sister Judah did not return to me with all her heart, but only in pretense, declared the Lord. The Lord said to me, faithless Israel is more righteous than unfaithful Judah. Go proclaim this message toward the north. Return, faithless Israel, declares the Lord. I will frown on you no longer, for I am faithful, declares the Lord. I will not be angry forever. Only acknowledge your guilt. You have rebelled against the Lord your God. You have scattered your favors to foreign gods under every spreading tree, and have not obeyed me, declares the Lord. Return, faithless people, declares the Lord, for I am your husband. I will choose you, one from a town and two from a clan, and bring you to Zion. Then I will give you shepherds after my own heart, who will lead you with knowledge and understanding. In those days, when your numbers have increased greatly in the land, declares the Lord, people will no longer say, the ark of the covenant of the Lord, it will never enter their minds or be remembered. It will not be missed, nor will another one be made. At that time they will call Jerusalem the throne of the Lord, and all nations will gather in Jerusalem to honor the name of the Lord. No longer will they follow the stubbornness of their evil hearts. In those days, the people of Judah will join the people of Israel, and together they will come from a northern land to the land I gave your ancestors as an inheritance. I myself said, how gladly would I treat you like my children, and give you a pleasant land, the most beautiful inheritance of any nation. I thought you would call me Father, and not turn away from following me. But like a woman unfaithful to her husband, so you, Israel, have been unfaithful to me, declares the Lord. A cry is heard on the barren heights, the weeping and pleading of the people of Israel, because they have perverted their ways and have forgotten the Lord their God. Return, faithless people, I will cure you of backsliding. Yes, we will come to you, for you are the Lord our God. Surely the idolatrous commotion on the hills and mountains is a deception. Surely in the Lord our God is the salvation of Israel. From our youth, shameful gods have consumed the fruits of our ancestors' labor, their flocks and herds, their sons and daughters. Let us lie down in our shame, and let our disgrace cover us. We have sinned against the Lord our God, both we and our ancestors. From our youth till this day, we have not obeyed the Lord our God. So, my girlfriend knows that my girlfriend and my brother both know that my tongue isn't the most pure. I do like to throw in a swear word, but not at God, because that's not good. But when I read these first 3 verses, I was like, dang, holy something. I was just so like, Jeremiah's going in on us, you know? God starts out with an analogy on us, just telling us, you know, if a man divorces his wife, and then she goes and marries someone else, but then he wants her back, should he return to her again? Like, in context of the Hebrew, right? Like, these people consider someone unclean if they sleep with more than one person. So that's where it's referencing the idea of would not the land be completely defiled, the land being the woman. But then he's telling the Israelites in this that you've been a prostitute with many lovers, because in context of the other 2 chapters of Jeremiah, Israel has worshipped other gods, worshipped Baal, stone, wood, gone up onto high places, which is where they would do all those things. And you know, God then says, like, you're defiling the land with your prostitution and wickedness. And it's like, where haven't you been a prostitute? Where have you not been ravished, right? And at this time, Israel's not going through that hot of a time, and they have no water, they have no springs, and still the Israelites are too prideful to admit their sins. And so God's telling them, like, you have the brazen look of a prostitute to refuse to blush with shame. So just pride is a very dangerous thing, and is present here with the Israelites at this time. But you know, God's then saying, like, you guys complain to me, saying, like, my father, my friend from youth, like, I've been on your side this entire time. And I'm going to reference the Sermon on the Mount as many times as I can, because I think following God gets real in both Jeremiah so far and in the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says to them, I do not know you. But these people, and these people approach Jesus saying, I have committed miracles in your name. I have followed you all my life. But then Jesus turns to them and say, go away from me, you sinner. I don't know you. And that's exactly what's happening here, is these people are saying, my father, my friend from youth. And they're saying, will you always be angry? Will your wrath continue forever? Right? But God's kind of telling them, like, you guys have been cheating on me this entire time. And, you know, this is how you talk, but you do all the evil you can. So they're just complaining and getting mad at God when they've been doing wrong. And, yeah, so during the reign of King Josiah being considered the last good king in David's bloodline at that time, have you seen what faithless Israel has done? So after King Josiah corrected everyone and kind of, he didn't look left or right, he kept on a straight path with God, but got rid of all the idols and tore down all the high places and messed those up. But then right after, Israel just started being faithless and went up and, as it says here, committed adultery. And, you know, God God makes it as explicit as possible because adultery was seen as such a bad thing in those times, you know? And he's saying that worshiping other gods is like adultery, but not just adultery to your wife, it's adultery to God. And that's supposed to be, or that is, so much more significant than adultery to a wife or a husband, even though that's pretty bad. And then he says, like, I thought that after you'd done this, you would return to me, but you didn't. And Judah, being another sect of people who was watching it, they saw it, and God said he left them. And even though Judah saw it, they also went and committed adultery. So it's just like Jeremiah's having to spit fire at everyone because everyone's just defiling the land and committing adultery with rocks and trees. So I actually don't understand this verse 11 where it says faithless Israel is more righteous than unfaithful Judah. So if you have some clarification on that, I'd really appreciate it. Just because I'm not sure about all the context in the situation, and I haven't read up on King Josiah's reign and maybe what it is that made this statement come about and what it's supposed to mean. But I'll probably end up Googling it later tonight. Yeah, I'll post a comment or a description about it later after I Google it. Let me actually just, yeah, never mind. Go and proclaim this message toward the north, return. So now God's like saying, like, you did all these things to me, you cheated on me, all you guys sucked, and now he's saying, you can come back, right? I'll give you another chance. And this is something we'd like to ask for if we were to do someone wrong in a similar manner. But for God to do that, that's pretty cool. So, yeah. But it is conditional to acknowledging guilt. And that's also a theme that we saw in Jeremiah 2 was the remiss attitude that a lot of the Israelites had, or the entire nation of Israel had, with not being able to admit guilt. It actually references it in the first verses, where it says, you have the brazen look of a prostitute, you refuse to blush with shame, and God's just trying to say, just acknowledge that you did wrong, and that you rebelled against the Lord, and that you scattered your favor, and have not obeyed. And just, it's continuing with this sentiment. And then in verse 15, he says, I'm going to give you a guide that will lead you better than what you've been led with. And so 16, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, it will never enter their minds or be remembered. It will not be missed, nor will another one be made. So I don't know the context for this verse either, but kind of sounds like they lose the Ark of the Covenant, maybe, suggesting it will not be missed. And yeah, that's another verse to look into. And so at the time they will call Jerusalem the throne of the Lord, and all nations will gather in Jerusalem to honor the name of the Lord. No longer will they follow the stubbornness of their evil hearts. So this is kind of like God's giving us a theme in this chapter, starting point being like, you guys are prostitutes, you guys cheated on me, followed up by, you guys can come back, just admit that you did wrong, followed by, I'll give you a good guide, with all the knowledge and wisdom, and usually that ends up being paired with so that you will not have an excuse, because we, by nature, assuming responsibility for the things that we do wrong sucks, and we like to make excuses so that we don't feel bad. But now that we're being given a good guide, and technically I feel like no one really has excuses because we have the Bible, but we're human. But that shouldn't limit us from doing as well as we can. But yeah. In those days, the people of Judah will join, and together they will come from a northern land to the land that gave your ancestors as inheritance. Right, so I'm pretty sure, here, let me just do a quick search, because I'm like 85% sure that this is in context of Israel being exiled. Exile. Right, so yeah, so this is in context of the exile. I don't want to say it without knowing for sure, which is why I didn't mention it in the other first two videos that I did tonight. But yeah, this is all in context of the exile, and so they no longer have their land, but God's kind of telling them, like, you guys will and can get it back. And you know, then he turns to this statement of just kind of like, I want to treat you guys well. I want to give you guys the best. I thought you would call me father and not turn away from me. Like this, for all them dads out there, this hurts, you know? Because it's like, or at least it only hurts if like your kids don't appreciate you, which I feel like most of the time it doesn't feel like they do. And if they do, then great. But you know, it's like I try to give you as much as I can, but you don't even recognize me as your dad. You don't recognize me as someone who you've depended on. You don't recognize me as someone who can try to guide you as well as I can. I thought you would call me father and not turn away from following me. Oh, I ain't a dad yet. But man, if I read that verse at just the most unlucky time, that would hurt a lot. And then we get another analogy. But like a woman unfaithful to her husband, so you, Israel, have been unfaithful to me. A cry is heard on the barren heights, the weeping and pleading of the people of Israel, because they have perverted their ways and have forgotten the Lord their God. So it kind of just ties it all back to the beginning, where it just says, like, all because you chose to be unfaithful to me, because you refused to follow. That is why you're in this exile, but I'm going to try to bring you guys back and give you guys everything I want to give you, the best I can. Return, faithless people, and will cure you of backsliding. Yes, we will come. And now there's quotations here. So my understanding is that this is supposed to be a response, and I know that when I read it the first time, I didn't catch that until the end, which kind of made it so that my voice inflections were kind of weird, because I was saying it all like it was all being said by God, but that's not the case, right? And I think the purpose of the text is to suggest this is a response that God wants to hear, right? So after all this, yes, we will come back to you, for you are the Lord our God. Surely this is all bad. All our idolatry was bad. God is the salvation. From our youth, shameful gods have consumed the fruits of our ancestors' labor. So, like, the ancestors, all the other Israelites that went through, you know, the exile after Egypt, and, you know, having been in Egypt, it's kind of seeing like all their deaths, because none of the people who left Egypt got to see the promised land. And that was because they sinned too much. Yeah. And so they're just kind of recognizing it, and this is what, you know, this is how they did respond, or they wanted to respond. And let us lie down in our shame, let our disgrace cover us. Just kind of finally admitting that they did wrong. And so that's this chapter. And You know, I can't emphasize how much I appreciate Jeremiah as a book. And it's because of how it's written. I don't know if I said that. I don't know if I said it in this video or one of the other videos, because I just recorded like 6 or 7. I recorded five videos tonight, the 5th one. But Jeremiah keeps it real, and I want the real thing. I had just a sermon last week. You know, the sermon was about keeping it real, and I want the real God, the whole God. And sometimes we sugarcoat our concepts of following God and what Christianity entails. We get a little hint here and there from Romans and from Pauline texts that suggest like we're entering into a life of suffering, right? But people don't really understand that to much of a degree, and so it doesn't end up getting felt as much, you know. But Jeremiah, he really just sticks it to you and says you're being a really, really bad person to the person or to the God that has done really, really good for you. And treating people who have been mean to you, treating people who have been nice to you meanly is not good. So why would he do that to God? And just, yeah. So that's a chapter. And oh, that's my wallpaper. That's somewhat, if you really want to know what it is, if you're just curious, it's the back of an anime thing. You're talking to my kids. Your dad used to like to watch a lot of animated films. He still might, and drew a lot of inspiration from them because they're pretty cool. But yeah, Jeremiah 3. It's a chapter, and that's my last video for the night. And starting Jeremiah 4, I will be reading it for the first time with you guys, genuinely. I mean, even just reading it a second time for these videos today, maybe it's just late, but I still need to dissect some things. Like there were the verse 11 and verse 16, I think, where I wasn't really sure what it was saying, but I'd like to know. And hopefully before I post, because I'm not gonna look it up right now because it's 3:30 a.m. But yeah, I'll just update some information or some resources that can guide us to figuring out what those texts meant. So that's all for today.